Welcome back to the Fuel Your Legacy podcast. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a newer, stronger foundation essential in creating your meaningful legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. As much as you like this podcast, I'm certain that you're going to love the book that I just released on Amazon, Fuel Your Legacy, The 9 Pillars to Build a Meaningful Legacy. I wrote this to share with you the experiences that I had while I was identifying my identity, how I began to create my meaningful legacy, and how you can create yours. You're going to find this book on Kindle, Amazon, and as always on my website, samknickerbocker.com. Welcome back to Fuel Your Legacy. And today, man, I just love interviewing people from all over the world. Today we're talking to Mandy Relyea-Voss, correct?
Relyea-Voss.
Yeah, see, I should have corrected myself, or at least checked for the last name. My last name gets misspoken all the time. So Knickerbocker gets said a lot of different ways. So sorry about that. But she is actually the owner and CEO of Relyea-Voss social media. I love the play on words. Her goal is to bring high-level proficiency to the world of marketing and advertising. If you've ever thought, like, how could I get known more? How could I be out there more? How could people know what I do or the brands that I represent? And how could I become a person of influence? That's what we're going to talk about today. She's been a writer, photographer. She just loves anything creative. So she's kind of, I love things that are creative, but I'm not creative as a human. So I love talking to people who are. And she's filled more than 5 journals by the time she's 18. I mean, that's crazy. I don't know very many people who match how many journals they filled as myself. So no, legit, I have 5. When I got married, funny story really quick. When I got married, I literally gave my fiance at that point, while we were dating, all of my journals from my childhood, starting at 8 years old to when I was 21, and said, have at it. Like, if you can handle all of this stuff, all of your deepest, darkest secrets, all the crap you've done, everything that you would not want anybody to know about. Some of the pages, like, later in life, I got embarrassed. So I went and actually got a Sharpie and, like, Sharpied over stuff, because I was like, I tried to redact it, but if you hold it on the side, you can still see what it is. I gave it all to her and said, if you can handle this, we're in business. Let's get hitched. And after that weekend, she read it and she's like, yeah, let's do this. So it worked.
Yeah.
How many people can do that, right? Can you allow somebody to watch you grow up? And I think that's the essence of marketing. That's the essence of really helping people see your life. Not like from a fake perspective of I'm going to just create whatever I want, but be real. Like, why are you hiding stuff? Be real. And the more real you are, that's where the true connection comes in my experience. So I'm excited for Mandy to kind of share her nuggets. She's going to tell us first where she comes from, how she grew up, and why she ended up in this industry. Awesome story. Take it away.
All right. Hey, everyone. I'm Mandy. So I live in Kingston, Ontario, Canada. And I am a townie. So I was born and raised here. I was born in Kingston General Hospital. And I lived out in the country with my mom, my dad, and my younger brother, John. And we had a really happy childhood. We were supported. We were loved. We had a great house. We did everything we wanted to do. I'd say in all honesty, we were pretty spoiled kids. When I reached my teen years, I gained a bunch of weight and kind of became a loner. And the way that I dealt with that was to dive into music. So I started playing clarinet in grade 7. And I got really, really into it. So I'm talking like my parents were paying for private lessons. I took piano lessons. I took music theory lessons. I was in 5 different bands, including the Kingston Youth Orchestra, which required an audition. That's all I did. I woke up, practiced clarinet for an hour, went to school, came home, practiced clarinet for 2 hours, went to a lesson, played some piano, went to bed. So that was pretty much my life for the majority of high school. I did not go to parties. I did not have a boyfriend. I did really well in school, but my focus was music, and I wanted to be a concert musician. So I wanted to be first chair clarinet in an orchestra, and that was my big goal. And it wasn't until my senior year in high school that shifted. So my best friend was my music teacher. I used to eat lunch in his office. I don't know how this guy put up with me. every day, lunch in his office, and he retired before I reached my senior year, and they brought in another teacher who was a woman who completely destroyed the music program. So we were playing Kiwanis level A and competing, and it kind of went down to a C. They let anyone in the band without auditioning, and she completely ruined my love of music. So I ended up quitting music entirely, and I had always been doing photography as a hobby. So I'm like, all right, cool, I want to be a photographer. So I take it upon myself to set up a dark room in my basement. I develop my own film. I print my own photos. I use my mother's camera, fully manual camera, so none of this automatic shit, shutter speed, aperture, lighting, that was all on me. And I got really, really good. So I applied to some of the top photography schools in, I guess, Ontario and where else? Nova Scotia and BC. And one of them is Ryerson in Toronto, and they accept 50 students, and they get about 350 to 400 applications, and I got in. Holy shit, I'm jumping around. Oh my God, Mom, I got in. And it came time to do my tuition deposit, and I was banking at a credit union, and they sent my deposit a day late. So Ryerson goes, too bad. You were delayed with your deposit. You are now waitlisted. So my dreams are shattered. And I decided that I'm going to go with my backup school, which was Guelph Humber in Guelph, Ontario. And it was a kind of a combined diploma and bachelor program. So I would have graduated with a diploma in something and a bachelor. I don't even remember now. But the first year was so muddied that I kind of lost my interest. And there was also some illegitimate behaviors from one of the lab professors that made me uncomfortable, and a lot of the other women, and I actually reported him to the board, and they were like, he has tenure, too bad. So I was like, I'm not dealing with this guy for 4 years, so I left. And I came back to Kingston, and I'm like, okay, so music didn't work. Photography, I did good, but I don't want to be in that industry because it's not really what I thought it was. What can I do that uses all my creativities and my brain? So I applied to integrated marketing communications and advertising, and the program name has changed because I'm so old that I've been out for a while. That's what it was back then. I don't know what it is now. I think it's AMC or something. So IMC was my program at St. Lawrence College, integrated marketing communications, and then with an advertising on the side. So that was kind of the start of my journey into the marketing world. And the first year, I barely went to class because I was used to university. So, I did my partying on the weekends, and I showed up for class when I wanted, and I read way ahead in the textbooks and did all the assignments and got really good marks on all the assignments. But one of my professors comes up to me and goes, all right, so you realize that every hour of class you miss is 1% off your grade? I'm like, no. He's like, yeah, so you're failing, but you've gotten like 90s on all your assignments. So I'm like, mother F, like, really? So I ended up writing a supplemental and getting by in that class, and I did really, really well. And so it was a 3-year program. Now I cheated the system. So after 2 years, I got my diploma in integrated marketing communications, and then you had the option to apply for your 3rd year. After your 3rd year, so only 1 additional year, you got an additional diploma in advanced advertising. So technically, if I had have done both of the programs, I would have done a 2-year and a 3-year, but they just kind of tacked on the 3rd year. So I have an advanced diploma in advertising and a diploma in integrated marketing communications. So after college, I went to a job fair, and I was offered a job at a local credit union. Remember before when I said the credit union screwed me over? Ha ha ha. The universe is hilarious. So I accepted the job based on the fact that they told me I would be doing marketing for them. I'm like, all right, cool. It's in my industry. Yes, right out of school. I was hired on a part-time basis, and I worked 40 hours a week, 6 days a week, no benefits, minimum wage. Oh no, I think it was maybe $1 above minimum. And I got comfortable. So it was a steady paycheck. I got lots of hours. I was making my rent. At this point, I was living with my brother and a friend. I didn't love the job at all. I tolerated the job. I really liked the people that came into the bank, and I made friends. But it wasn't, every time I tried to bring forth an idea for marketing, and I had to go up to the CEO, who was, I'm not going to say anything unless in case he hears it sometime. But anyway, just kind of like a dude in a chair sitting there making decisions that he really has no idea about the day-to-day of the business. And I was there for a year. I had perfect attendance, no sick days, and it was never late, never had a reprimand, nothing. And a year hit, and I don't know what happened. I was late 3 Saturdays in a row, and I got fired. So I'm going to say that this is my subconscious saying, this is not what you want to do, and put me in a situation where I, wasn't a good employee anymore, and they fired me. So of course, like most young people, I think I was 21 or 2. Yeah, I think. I'm like, all right, I'm going to go get drunk. I got fired, blah, blah, blah. I'm in a bad mood. Let's go out to the bar. So I go out, and I'm talking to my friends about, it was a good job. It paid me, but it wasn't marketing. Marketing is really what I want to do. I don't know what to do now. I got to start applying for jobs. And this guy comes up to me. He goes, oh, I heard you talking about marketing. You sound really intelligent. Like, are you looking for a job? I'm like, oh, haha, yeah, right, buddy. Like, not interested. Peace out. See you later. And he came up to me again. He's like, no. Like, for real, I'm going to take you out to lunch tomorrow. I want to offer you a job. And still, I'm like, yeah, okay, man, sure, whatever. Like, here's my number. I gave him my real number. I'm like, okay, you can message me tomorrow if you're legit, and I'll take the time to come and meet with you. So he met with me the next day, and he was a really above board, nice dude. And he legitimately offered me a job. So there was a company in Kingston that doesn't exist anymore, but it was called Kingston Kiosk, and they are basically, a competitor for the Yellow Pages. So I don't know if you guys know it. You guys? Okay. So Yellow Pages, right. So basically online version. So come to our website, click on, restaurants in Kingston and see the list of everything. And this is before that was a really big thing. So, they had a pretty good business model going in Kingston, but part of it was event promotions. So he hired me not to sell directory listings, but to contact events in the city and say, do you want to be listed on our events calendar? Because we wanted to get people to the website and get them on the website so they could find the businesses. So I was hired as the events and promotions manager. And part of that was running Facebook and Twitter. Now, it was only Facebook and Twitter back then, so you can imagine how easy that shit was compared to today. So I did that job. I did it well. And I actually started selling directory listings, and they nicknamed me the closer because I'd go into a sales meeting with I wasn't planning to actually sell them. And at the end, they're throwing me their credit card. And I'm like, I don't know how to process this. I got to go talk to my boss. I don't have the tools to take your money right now. So that summer was quite interesting. It was a high commission for the directory listings. And then the other job, he was just paying me hourly. But my brother and I both worked for him. And we basically just went out and sold a bunch of stuff. And then got our commission and said, okay, peace out, man. When the money runs out, we'll come back and sell more. He's like, all right. So we, go have fun for a few weeks and then show up again when we needed money. So that was a really sweet first experience in the sales industry. Anyway, so from there, the CEO was dating someone in Ottawa. So he got transitioned to the Ottawa head office. And just so happens the girl he was dating worked for the company. But she decided to quit to get her graduate. So he offered me the job. So he's like, hey, you're doing really good in Kingston as events or promotions manager. Do you want to move to head office and work from here full time? I'm like, yeah, okay, man, sure. So I moved myself to Ottawa from Kingston. So first move ever out of the city. And I was actually dating someone at the time in Petawawa. So it actually was a great match because I was actually closer to him. So I was like, yahoo, woohoo. So I went to head office and they put me in the front desk because I was a girl and they wanted me to be the receptionist and the greeter and the person that got the drinks and the photocopier and the events and promotions manager and side sales. And I had to attend business meeting dinners with, the uppity men of Ottawa, which again, I was too naive back then to realize what I was actually doing. So the job was the exact same. So the same idea. Events and promotions manager ran Facebook and Twitter and promoting local events, but this time in Ottawa. And their following was quite high for back then. So they had 15,000 on Facebook and 15,000 on Twitter. And that's a lot. It was a lot back then. Maybe not so much now. I don't even know what Twitter numbers are like now.
Millions, hundreds of millions.
So, I took this job and I noticed that they were giving away their event listings for free. and they had a newsletter with a subscription base of like 20,000. And I said, you know what, guys, can I like make a revenue stream for you? Because you should be selling these listings and not just giving them away. Like you could make some money doing this. They're like, all right, sure, go for it. So I draw up all these plans and like, one newsletter insert is worth this much, and a package of 2 Facebook posts and 3 tweets is worth this much. Blah, 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 blah. So I go ahead and I go out there and I land $100,000 of business for them in the first year. And they were paying me for a job. So the previous person that was in the position was being paid a salary and was making no money. And I was paid less of a salary and I made them over $100,000. And that's not including trade sponsorship agreements, which was over 200. So because part of that job was running social media, I was interacting with our clients. Say, the Ottawa Gala was listing their event with us. So, I write their content, I'd send it to them for approval, and then I'd post it out. And the company would see, when we tagged them in the tweet, then they'd say something and I'd respond right away. And within a few months, some of the event clients or even, the businesses that were purchasing social promotion, oh my God, you're really good at this. Do you want to help us on the side? I'm like, nah. And then I started thinking, you know what? Like there were about 7 different clients that asked for, hey, can you help us manage our social media on the side? It wasn't event promotions. It wasn't sponsorships. It was help us come up with a strategy and run our social media. So I remember so clearly. So this is back when Wix had just started. So just for reference, my business is 7 years old now. So this was 7 years ago. I'm sitting at my computer and I pull up Wix and I create a website. And I call it Relyea-Voss Social Media. And I sit there, I'm so clever. This is great. And my original logo was like a bow tie in a square. And I'm a woman. So I don't know why I went that way, but I thought it was so cool. And I made this really simple website. And I was like, all right, I'm going to make money on the side running people's social media accounts. Like, this is going to be great. So I go to the CEO and, because I'm an above board human being and I wanted to get approval, I said, hey, I have been offered, a few side gigs. I'm wondering if you're okay if I do this. No, it's a conflict of interest. You signed a non-compete. You're not allowed to do that, blah, 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 blah. And I looked at him and I was like, all right, fine, buddy, I quit. He's like, no notice? I was like, I'll give you a week. I'll finish up some stuff, but like, you got to pay out all my commissions and I'm done. So, so here I am.
Story for you. That's a good story.
So here I am in Ottawa with an apartment, and my boyfriend's living in Petawawa, and I have quit my job. Now, the job was paying me not a livable wage. I'm not going to disclose anything else, but I was way overworked for what I was making. And then on top of it, he refused to pay out my commission because some of the invoices hadn't cleared, and he said it's only on earned money, when I had signed clients for the rest of that calendar year, and I would have made a pretty penny on commission. So that was my first, like, oh, F you, man. And then I was like, okay, I called up all these clients of the kiosk that had offered me work, and I signed like 3 people within a day. They're like, yep, you're on, here you go. Now back then, keeping in mind, very, very new, very green in the industry, not making enough money to sustain an actual life. So I got myself a job while starting a business selling cars at Honda.
They're great cars. You got to sell a car.
No car sale experience, no above average car knowledge whatsoever. However, very good at sales. So I walk into this dealership and it's me. So it's in Pembroke, which is close to Petawawa. So I actually kept my apartment in Ottawa because I couldn't get out of the lease. And I moved myself in with my boyfriend in Petawawa, and I commuted to Pembroke, which is like 20 minutes. And the 2 gentlemen in the dealership were, I'd say, over 70 and like grumpy old men. Like straight up grumpy old men. And I was in a military town. Young military dudes, female car salesperson. I made a bunch of money in a real short period of time. And I did that. So it took me about 4 weeks to get my certification, my OMVIC. And then I went on vacation with Tyler. And while I was on vacation, I'm like, I don't want to go back to this job. I don't like it. It doesn't turn me on. I don't get excited to go into work. I'm like trying to think of ways that, like I'm in my office, supposed to be doing sales stuff, and I'm like doing my business like on my my iPad. So I messaged them. I'm like, yeah, guys, sorry I quit. I'm not coming back. And they're like, oh my God, no. Like, you can stay on vacation as long as you want. Like, like tell us when you're coming back and we'll let you come back. Like, please don't leave. And I'm like, sorry, guys. Like, it just really isn't for me. And then when I came back from that trip, that is when I was fully in my business, 100%, no other income, going for it. So that was probably a transition of about 8 months from when I quit that one job till when I quit the car dealership job. But there was really no middle ground. Like, I quit kiosk and then I started the business and I signed some clients, but then I realized I wasn't making enough. So then I got myself another job right away. And then within a few months I had quit that. So I didn't really tell anyone I was starting a business. I didn't advertise to my family and friends that I was starting a business. I just did it because I was having a lot of fun in one element of my job. And then people were positive reinforcement of, oh, you're really, really good at this. And I thought, if I'm really good at it, can I make money doing it? And that's kind of where the switch was. This is fun and I can make money. And that's what I had planned with music and photography. So again, the mindset is the same, just how I got there and what I was doing is different. So here I am. I'm 31. My business has been around for 7 years. I have 3 employees. I just hired somebody this week. Also fired someone this week.
I was gonna say, I hired.
I've had office space. I rented office space for 2 years, but currently we're remote because I've got someone in the U.S., Toronto, and then 2 in Kingston. And we've got clients in the U.S. and Canada, and we are, in my mind, we have passed that 5-year mark, and we are successful.
That's awesome. That's so cool. I'm so excited. So I have to say this, testament to just. I'm going to forget her name not every time. Mandy. I want to say Mindy for some reason, but just because I'm dyslexic, so I know it's not Mandy. Not all of you guys get to see her while she's talking because, unfortunately, you're listening to this on a podcast and you're not watching the YouTube video of it. But she is hands down, I believe, the most exciting person that I've interviewed. Like, she really is like giggly happy. I mean, you guys heard her, but like giggly happy about her story, about what she's doing. She loves what she's doing. I think that if they were to say, if I would say this is what kind of umbrellas who Mandy is she just loves what she's doing. She's happy. And kind of why I do this whole podcast is because I want to bring people like her on the show so that you can see it's possible, right? There is a world out there where you can just be thrilled to wake up every morning and go do what you love doing and get paid to do it. And if that's all we get accomplished today is like understanding that, yes, you could do a lot of things. You can be really good, world class at a lot of things, get degrees or whatever. But ultimately, what turns you on? What lights your fire? What gets you so freaking excited just to wake up in the morning? Do that. And my purpose of Fuel Your Legacy podcast is to help you have the confidence to go do that. Stop living a quiet life of desperation. Stop just like surviving. Surviving sucks. It's just terrible, right? Go thrive. Go really experience life and live it to the fullest. And I just can't say that enough. So I want to tear some of this stuff apart because I think it's so these are the smaller things that I think people overlook. They're like, well, how did you become so successful? Why are you so successful? And often successful people, they're like, I don't know. I just did what I loved. But the characteristics are what I want to bring out because I don't know what that is for you. I don't know what you're going to apply this characteristic to, but she has a foundation from a young age of becoming obsessed with whatever she's doing. Like just pure obsession and then working her mind out, like eyeballs, everything. Like she just goes until she gets the result she wants. Okay. Now, what's important about this, and I think this is just as everything has its positives and its negatives, and this is where I want to bring some contrast in. She might not like me pointing this out, but it is what it is. Okay, because it happens with a lot of people. Becoming obsessed with something and just working your heart out for it, and then having somebody come in and crush your dream and rain on a parade. She said it ruined music for her. It ruined her desire to do music because she had some stupid teacher, small-minded teacher who didn't understand what could be, and that affected her and how she dealt with music, at least for that point in her life. I'm assuming as of now, you still are okay with music. You still play the guitar, still do things.
Oh yeah, guitar, clarinet, piano. Yeah.
Cool. So you've recovered. That's good to a point. But the reason this is important to me and why I want to point this out is unfortunately I was at one point in my life one of those stupid, small-minded people who went and destroyed, to one degree or another, my little sister's passion and confidence in an area of their life in music. And so as you're sitting there listening to this, think, where am I the person who's raining on somebody else's parade?
Wow, yeah.
Okay? Because this is just as much for me to work as for you to work. Like, be willing to challenge yourself. It's great to talk about all of her successes, but what we can learn from the failures, from the things that maybe we are doing inadvertently we don't think about because we think, oh, I hated that. I would never do that to somebody. If you're putting any amount of emotional energy to something, chances are you're doing that to other people in your life in one way or another. So just be real honest with yourself and think, where am I not giving a full level of support in my life that I could be?
I love that you said that, because that has been part of my journey the past couple years. And I work really, really hard to not do that. So as someone who is an employer, I have to use positive reinforcement over negative. I have found myself slipping into the negativity more than once. And I really have to reel myself back and say, okay, if you constantly pick at someone's negative trait, they're more likely to continue to do negative things. Whereas if you praise and praise and praise, they will do good and get more praise. Because the more that you expose somebody to something, the more that's going to happen. So positivity equals positivity. And if you're negative Nancy, then you're probably just going to be with a bunch of negative Nancys.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's why I wanted to point it out, because this is like, it's the most phenomenal thing. And it's also something we got to be aware of, because they all have their positive and negatives of everything. But the other thing is that obsession, that hard work, that transferred as soon as she decided, okay, well, this woman, I can't operate under this woman in music. This woman's not going to happen. I'm going to go find a new thing. I'm going to go get more excited about something else and go see if I can make that work. So that value, that internal value of understanding where she was at and what value she was offering, that was an internal value. It wasn't somebody else told you, oh, you're so phenomenal at music and that's why you decided to love music. You love music because you love music. And then that transferred into photography. I love photography because I love photography.
Yep.
And I can't express this enough. My whole coaching programs, when I'm coaching people, is centered around helping you identify your internal value.
Yep. Your why.
So you can, it's kind of your why, but it's almost more than your why. I feel, for me at least, is separate from your value. Your why is what drives you and keeps you going. Your value is recognizing, and it's a self-respect thing. It's understanding that, like, if I close my eyes and I think, man, I'm worth $200 an hour, I know that the value I'm offering is worth $200 an hour.
Yeah. And
then I go to work and I'm getting paid $17, $20, $50, $60 an hour, $100 an hour, but I believe that my value is $200 an hour. You are disrespecting yourself subconsciously. Your self-confidence diminishes every time you go do something that you know is not your best and that you're not getting compensated what you believe you're worth. And so understanding your value is what enabled her out of photography. She was in school, found out that there were some people around her that she didn't agree with the way that they operated themselves. And so she had the value. She knew, look, I don't have to put up with this, because she has self-respect, because she knew I've got value inside of me. I don't need somebody else to validate my value. Now, it was convenient when somebody else said, hey, you also have value in this other area. Yes, you're really fantastic here, but you also have value in marketing. Could you come help me in these areas? Well, how long did it take her? She's like, sure, I know I have value, so I'd love to do this. Let's get this business set up. She goes up to tell her boss, hey, I'm going to go do this. No, you have to stay in my box of what your value is. No, I don't. Peace, middle finger to you. I'm gone, right? Like,
yeah.
Because that's an internal belief of I have value and you don't get to tell me what I'm worth. I know I can go make money. Now here's the crucial thing. And this is where I'm pulling out the pieces that most people I feel like miss in conversation. Because she has this inner value, the one thing that is people struggle with, because they have this inner value, they really struggle attaching that inner value to a dollar amount.
Ooh.
Okay? And so what happens is we go get these jobs, and often we get this imposter syndrome because we think somebody's paying us more than we think we're worth, or they're not paying us enough, right? But they're obviously paying you for less than they think you're worth, because if they didn't think they could be making a profit on your efforts, they wouldn't be paying you. Like you have to fire people who are sucking money out of your company. It doesn't work. So they're already paying you less than they know you're worth by virtue of them paying you and hiring you. That's just how it works. So,
whoa, that is a really good way to think. I never thought of it that way.
So this is what's crazy. She goes off on her own and she signs some contracts with people, but she doesn't know what her value is in the marketplace. She hasn't yet learned how to tie her value to those companies to a dollar amount that she could survive on. So she had to go get another job, right? Yep. Until it finally clicked. I just don't love doing that. I don't love selling cars. I can clean up selling cars. I don't love it. Okay. And so if that's the case, I have to find a way to charge enough for my value. And now she's been in business 7 years. She's moving. She's now employing other people. Guess what? You're paying people less than they're worth. Just as what it is. Okay.
I don't want to admit that, but it's probably true.
See, I'm super open with the people that I pay. I have an assistant stuff. Look, I know I'm paying you less than you're worth. I'm paying you what you think you're worth, or else you wouldn't get the job because you think you're stealing money from me. And I'm like, funny. I'm stealing time from you, right? But I'm aware of that. But also with every one of my employees, I'm having the conversation. How can you stop working for me? How can we get it to a point where you're no longer working for me because you see enough value in yourself? If I had to train a new assistant every 3 months because my assistant was able to do what I'm doing because she learned and she developed herself and she saw that value, that would be the best thing for me. Like, it's freaking annoying training new assistants. Believe me, it's annoying. But I love watching people succeed more than I love earning money, more than I love any of that. I love watching people succeed and believe in themselves more than anything else.
Wow, that's really cool.
So I'm grateful for your story. Hopefully you guys learned something out of this. I do have a funny story that I'm going to interject here. When I was 13 years old. I started working super young, full-time when I was 11 years old. And I went from working at a honey extracting plant to being a bricklayer, laying brick driveways and pavers in Idaho. I know, don't give me the face. I'm not sure it was legal. I paid taxes, or at least they took taxes out of my paycheck. I don't know that they actually got paid, but that's a whole nother story. I was managing a crew of 4 or 5 adults when I was 13 years old laying brick. And I called up my boss because I was getting paid $7.50 an hour. I don't care about full disclosure. I'll just let people know what I make. But if he listens to this, whatever. I have no hard feelings against this guy. I was getting paid $7.50 an hour, and these adults that were working with me, they were getting paid $12 or $10.50 or $12. I forget exactly. And so I called them up because, I mean, you're working with the guys out on a crew. You talk about what people get paid. No matter if you think, don't tell anybody what you get paid because it's against our contract. People talk about what they get paid, man. They can't hide from that. She's been very good and she didn't disclose.
I did not.
I think people talk about it in my world. But so I went and called him. I was like, look, you need to pay me at least what you're paying them. I'm freaking managing your crew. And he's like, no, sorry, I don't know. I can't do that. And I was like, why? I'm doing more than they are. And he's like, well, they're adults and they have families. I was like, okay, just because they have families to take care of and I'm a single dude who's 13 years old doesn't mean my value is just as much or more. So if you can't pay me more, then I quit. He's like, well, let me think about it. So then he calls me back the other day and he's like, yeah, I think we're just going to have to let you go. You're fired. And I was like, what? No, you don't fire me. I quit yesterday. So have a nice day. Anyways, point being, it's all along the same lines. Know your value. If you don't know your value, if you're like, I wonder what value I have in the marketplace, talk to a coach, talk to somebody who understands your system and can teach you your value. Okay.
Yeah.
It's so crucial to learn what your value is one way or another. So you said there weren't a lot of naysayers, really. What about, I'm curious, what about marketing? Because obviously you kind of fell into it, realized you were good at it, and just have been crushing it since. What about it, though, lights your fire? What about it gets you excited? Because, what about it gets you excited? I'm just curious.
Honestly, the challenge in general. So I originally wanted to be a copywriter. So 5 journals before the age of blah, blah, blah. I wanted to use words to persuade people. Now, when I think of that now, I kind of think that that's a negative thing because maybe that's not the nicest thing ever. But I loved writing, and I always loved watching ads on TV, and I dissect them. I'm like, oh, that was a terrible ad. Like, they should have done this. Or like the slogans or the catchphrases. Oh man, that's a really good one. Like, just do it. Yeah, I'm going to totally go do it with these Nike shoes on. And I wanted to be a copywriter. And I met Terry O'Reilly once, and he signed The Age of Persuasion for me and said, you're going to be a great copywriter. And that's not where I ended up. I guess I kind of do copywriting a little bit, but not in the traditional advertising agency sense of copywriting. But I was always just really interested in like, okay, the Charmin commercial of the bears wiping their butt with toilet paper and it's soft. And why is it a bear? And like, why does that speak to you? And then going into the demographics and the target markets and like all of the data really interested me. And like, I'm not even a math person at all. But like when a client comes to me and they go, okay, so my client is a 31-year-old single business owner, go. And I'm like, all right. And then I'm like, okay, so that's kind of close to me. And like, what do I do every day? And where are the places that I get my media? And what are the words I like? And really getting into the mind frame of the target market and really owning that just, okay, this is what's going to work for this. And trying to figure that out is the fun. So my favorite part of what I do is the onboarding process. So when I'm going through learning all about a client and their business, I'm like, oh, yeah. Like discovery sessions are like half an hour and I ask like 25 super pointed questions. They end up blushing at some point. They don't know how to answer some of them. And then based on that, I'm like, okay, based on all this information I just pulled out of you, here's how I think I can help. And they're like, whoa, like that's really good. No one ever asked me these questions before. Like, this is really interesting. And I'm like, yeah, because if I didn't have these answers, I wouldn't be able to come up with my, big idea. Like one of my clients is the most boring industry ever. And I'm like, you know what? Why don't we just run your social media like a newswire? Provide education to your target market to learn more about what you're doing so that they in turn use your services. They're like, holy shit, never thought of that. Yeah, and I've been running their social content for 2 years. And it's a newswire. We just put out news articles, let people know what's going on, and educate their target market. That's not a strategy that is applied in very many other places. But it was something that I thought, okay, if I was thinking of buying this service, what would help me buy it? Learning about why I need it, right?
Yeah, no, I love it. I think that's very much the same. See, this is what I love about talking about successful people is most of them, and if you've been listening to my podcast for a while, that is the thing that most people enjoy. They love the puzzle of whatever they do. They love the discovery sessions. They love finding out how to help, how to serve, what's going to be the most effective. They love that aspect of it. Not as many people. There are some who just 100% love the fulfillment aspect of it, where they're like actually going in and creating all the graphic artists and all the writing and stuff. There's some people who just like that lights them up, right? Those are the people that we hire because that lights them up. Okay.
That's what I was going to say. Exactly. I hire those people.
Yes. We hire that stuff out. The people that are the leaders, the movers, the shakers, they're the people who just get excited about creation, essentially. And that's something that I would, again, as a listener, stop, pull over, whatever you're doing right now, and write down 2 or 3 things. When was the last time you just chose to create something? Like, I don't care what it was. Did you make something new for dinner? Did you decide to put a new set of notes together on the piano? Did you decide to draw something? Did you draw a funny picture on the back of somebody's car in the dirt, right? Like, what did you do last time you created something that got you to smile? I know for myself, when I was 14 years old and it hit me that the purpose of, as far as I'm concerned, the purpose of me being on this planet is to learn to create in whatever fashion I want to. That thought terrified me. Like, literally, I wanted to die when I found out that my purpose was to be a creator. I wish that I could just vanish, buried in the mountains. It was so daunting, so overwhelming, because part of what happens when you understand that you're a creator and that's your intention is also, and this doesn't always click for everybody. This is what clicked for me, though. The fact that my purpose of being on this planet is to create, in my mind, by definition, means that where I'm at in life is because I created it. And that reality hurts people. That reality, they feel condemned by telling them that you created your crappy life. Okay? It's not a negative thing. See, when it first happened, I wanted to die because I had to come face the realization I created this crappy life that I'm living. A few years later, when I finally understood that also I can create the best world and life that I want to live in, now it excites me. Every crappy thing that happens in my life is now an exciting thing. Like, man, how the heck did that get created into my life? I got to change this. And now it's back to the discovery phase of how do I create something different? But when the penny first dropped, it was not an exciting moment. I'll be honest. Like, when the penny first dropped, I was terrified that my purpose was to create.
Wow. I don't think that I was ever terrified of that because I was doing it from the earliest age. Like, on my social account, my staff posted a photo of me at 7 years old sewing. Like, my mother bought me a full-on expensive sewing machine when I was 7 years old because I was so into sewing, and I was creating sooner than I can't even remember. Like, all my life I've been doing it, and I've never even had to realize that's just what I've been doing.
Right. I love that. I thank you for saying that, because I almost glossed over something massive, and I'm so glad you brought this up. Her being able to be obsessed with her clarinet, her being able to be obsessed with photography, required supportive parents. It required the people around her to love her enough to let her discover what she wants to do. And again, if you're a parent, I'm a parent, I got 2 kids, and sometimes it's hard to just let your child have an imagination and not be like, that doesn't work. My experience is you're never going to succeed at that, so you better not try, right? It's so tempting sometimes, even when it's like, I'm going to fly off the roof. No, you're going to hurt yourself. Rather than, that sounds like a fun idea. How could we do that safely, right? The difference in those conversations are entirely different. Oh, you want to be a clarinet professional? Well, that's a lot of money. We don't have the money for it. Versus, hey, let's start with whatever we can, and eventually we'll work up to whatever we can do to help you. How can we make that happen? So understanding that as a supportive parent, person, boss, whatever, asking the question, awesome, how can we make that happen? Versus, no, we don't have the resources, we don't have the money, we don't have whatever. Look, if your employee wants to get paid twice as much, say, awesome, I'd love to pay you twice as much. What are you going to do to make that possible?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So I had this exact same conversation with an employee who had been with me for a long time, and I absolutely love her. And she asked for a very significant raise. And I'm like, okay, great. What extra value are you bringing to allow me to pay you this? And there was no response. So we negotiated a slightly lesser raise than what she originally asked. And she ended up quitting anyway.
Yeah.
So that is 100% on point. 100%.
Yeah. Anyways, I just think I'm glad that you brought this back up so we could regroup to that, because parents, I think, deserve way more credit than we ever give them.
Yeah.
My parents, as as stressful and undesirable as my childhood was in so many ways, my parents believed in me and we were homeschooled. And anytime I wanted to do anything, my mom, bless her heart, she would go to the library, get as many books as she could and said, immerse yourself in this, see if you enjoy it. And then it's like 3 weeks later, that's really boring. I'm not interested in that anymore. Okay, what are you going to do then? Like, I'm so grateful that my mom and dad were willing and able to at least have enough patience with me, and I believe my other siblings, to allow us to do those things. Anyways, love it. This is such a good. I'm going to listen to this like 2 or 3 times just because I re-listen to all my podcasts, but some are better than others.
Oh, well, thanks.
No,
I was very fortunate to have the absolute best parents in the world. I'm very, 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 very close with my mother. She moved away to BC about a month and a half ago, and it devastated me. And I'm trying not to break down because I'm back in Kingston and like I can't go over and have coffee, which I did every other day. But they were a huge part, and they never told me no. Actually, the only time they said no was hockey, because my mom didn't want to put the time commitment in because it was way too much. But other than that, yes. And if the money wasn't there for something I wanted to do, yeah, like you said, started small. Like I rented a clarinet for the first 3 years, and then they saved up, and like I didn't know this because I was a child. They saved up and bought me a clarinet, and I still have it.
Sure. I love that. That's so cool. So I know we've covered so many, but I'm curious, what do you think, if you were to focus on one specific habit, mindset, or behavior that you've used to create your legacy, create your company, what would you say it is, and how could we adopt it into our lives?
That is a very difficult question. And the truthful answer to that is I actually did not have one for the first many years, which is why I was unsuccessful. I actually went bankrupt in the middle of building my company. And because I was not practicing self-care, I just threw myself in. I worked 12, 14, 15 hours a day. I obviously didn't have staff at this point because I was just starting. Until I adopted a self-care routine, I did not see success. So I wake up and I do not check my phone for the first 10 minutes. Now, I know that's not a lot of time, but sometimes it really is. And I get up and I, go pee and finish my whatever's left over of my water. I make sure I chug it. I get my gym clothes on. I grab my gym bag and I grab my phone and I go to the gym. And that's the first thing I do every day at 5:30 in the morning. And by the time, so I get back at like 7 o'clock. By 7:30, I'm ready to go. I work. I have hourly alarms set on my phone to get up, and I call them my dance parties. So I will put on a song that I love, get out of my desk, and just dance around for like the duration of the song to get me A, out of my seat, and B, just kind of turn my mind off so that I can come back refreshed in a few minutes. And taking time off. So when the workday is done, even though I'm currently in a home office, when I'm done work for the day, my laptop is closed and I do not answer work emails until that I am on shift, which is whatever, it's my choice, until I am on shift the next day. So be it 7, 8, or 9. It's really important to disconnect yourself, especially if you're a business owner, because we don't ever get a break. It is like having a child. Not the same exactly, but you're always thinking about it. You never really get time off. You're always worried. You're always concerned. You're always thinking of ways to make it better. And it's important to have your own identity, because if you just go into the business, you could just really, really get sucked in. And you need to be an individual as well as a business owner.
I love that. What's fascinating about that is everything that she does and all of her passions are like anything creativity. And sometimes we get this opinion that creativity, if I'm this creative person, that I'm just going to go with the flow, feng shui, and just not do anything.
No.
High-performing individuals are structured people. End of discussion. Yes, they're creative in their structured time to be creative. They structure their life still because that's what is necessary to be a high-performing individual. So although we've talked all about all the creativity, we did this and then random, all this stuff, right? Well, ultimately, when she became successful, she got structured. And I think that gets overlooked way too often. So I love that.
I'm going to plug one thing. It's not mine. So if you are interested in creating a routine, read Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs by Cameron Herold. He's a client of mine. Amazing. Take the time to structure your morning routine around what is going to best serve you. But definitely read that book.
Miracle Morning.
Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs. Who's the co-author? I'm blanking on the co-author, but Cameron Herold. Actually, he'd be a great connection for you.
Cool. Yeah, I'll look into that. Cool. So we're going to move on here. First, though, I think it's important that all of my guests, the reason I bring people on here is because I want to give them exposure as well as help my audience. So if we wanted to use your services, if we want to just get to know more about you, where's the best place to connect with you? How can we support you? How can the Fuel Your Legacy audience learn more about you, or at least say thank you for you coming on here and sharing your time with us?
Okay, so website, Relyea-Voss.com, Relyea-Voss social media. We're on all of the social channels, the same name. Now, if you liked me as a human being and want to connect with me, please reach out to me on Instagram. That is my newest obsession, which I didn't actually start Instagram for myself until January of 2019. So I'm very new, but I am obsessed and I'm very real on it. And I prefer that people talk to me through there. My business account, Relyea-Voss SM, is also great, but me as a human is the other one. Our key services, or our major services, are full social media management. So we do organic content creation, engagement, et cetera, et cetera. Very minimal paid. I actually prefer to outsource that because it's not something that turns me on. And this year I'm actually focusing on lessons. So if you want to run your own social, but you're not really sure how to do it, I will teach you how. I will give you all my tricks and send you on your way. I don't need to manage everyone's. If you really enjoy it, but you just want to up your game a bit, reach out.
Awesome. Love it. Okay, so this is my second favorite part of the episode. Have you listened to a lot of my podcasts at all?
No, I did a tidbit this morning because I thought I probably should, because I forgot about this interview entirely until I looked at my calendar because that's how busy I am.
Hey, I totally
sorry. I'm so sorry.
Hey, no offense taken. I completely understand. It just means you're going to get a surprise here, which is good. So this is called Legacy on Rapid Fire. 5 questions, 1 word to 1 sentence answers. The first question, you must clarify if you give a 1-word answer. Okay, I want at least a sentence out of the first question. Okay,
1 sentence, and then I can do 1 word for all the rest.
Yeah, for some of them you could do 1 word, but like first question, we need a little bit more detail. Okay,
great. Oh no.
Are you ready to go?
Sure.
Okay, perfect. What do you believe is holding you back from reaching the next level of your legacy today?
I'm still suffering from imposter syndrome, believe it or not.
Okay, that's good. So how are you planning on overcoming that? I'm curious.
Doing more of what I love. So the teaching element, connecting with people, getting myself out there, and being the most real, authentic, and raw version of myself.
Cool. Love it. So what do you think the hardest thing you've ever accomplished has been?
Hiring and training my first employee was quite interesting. That is something that I was not prepared for. I did not realize it was going to be as hard as it was, but it was also the best decision I ever made.
Awesome. Love it. And what do you think your greatest success at this point in your life has been then?
Does that have to be business related?
Oh, anything.
Devoting myself to self-love and self-care over the past 2 years, getting therapy and getting over some issues from childhood that allowed me to get through some things that I've been struggling with. And also just straight up starting to believe in myself.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And I love that she asked it had to be in business, but really your legacy is how you live your life. So this is going to be very much more poignant in a second here. But so what do you think is another great secret you believe contributes to your success? Like something you haven't told anybody or you tell very few people, you think this is like why I'm so good. What's that?
It's going to sound really silly, but I think it's because I actually give a shit.
That's
I'm
good.
not pretending when I reach out and say, how's your day going? Or can I help you in any way? Or how can I be of support? A lot of people assume that being genuine and kind is a fake thing, and it's really not for me. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I feel like that's like a thing.
Yeah, no, that's huge. The energy in which that happens is incredible. And you, what books, one or two books, would you recommend to the Fuel Your Legacy audience?
Miracle Morning for Entrepreneurs.
Okay.
Words That Work. Age of Persuasion. And I'm gonna have to plug Cameron again. Free PR and meetings suck. We're game changers. Cameron Harold.
Awesome.
Vivid Vision by Cameron Harold is also really good. Obviously, I've read all his books. He's a client, so.
So just go find Cameron Harold, order his books, and
yeah, they're very affordable. And last but not least, which was a very big shift, and this is something that I've kind of also been talking about on my personal social accounts, is 28 days alcohol free. So if you've ever considered what your relationship is with alcohol and you want to see what your life is without it, go buy this book and go through the 28 days, and holy crap. I don't know how to explain. I ended up doing 60. I'm going for 90. Yeah, that was a game changer book.
Basically, your sobriety then, right?
So their whole thing is reframing the mindset around alcohol and saying, I'm sober and I'm in AA and I'm never drinking again. They're just trying to get you to evaluate your relationship. And in reality, it's, I'm sad, I'm going to have a drink. I'm happy, we're going to celebrate with a drink. I'm bored, I'm going to drink. I'm anxious, I'm going to drink. Well, I think I'm more funny when I'm drunk. I think I'm a better worker. I think I close more sales. That's not accurate whatsoever. And you are actually the best version of yourself without alcohol. And this is a challenge to see or to show yourself that one thing.
I love it. I have the same approach to money when I have with people. Like, I'm a relationship coach, but with your money, because how people use and spend money is 90% of the time out of sedation of one thing or another. And so helping people see where they're spending their money and then asking them, hey, what type of fulfillment is that charge actually giving you? Most of my clients, when I run them through that process, they'll end up saving anywhere from $500 to $700 a month, just because they now are not blowing money on random stuff that doesn't serve them in any way.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy how much we allow money to just like be used to sedate our lives rather than be actually working for us towards a purpose that we're excited about.
Actually, that's a very important mind frame that people need to adopt. Like, what are you using your money to work towards rather than what are you doing with it right now?
Yep.
What's my goal? Your goal could be that trip or that house. Doesn't matter what that goal is.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. People are like, well,
I should have a house by 30 and
am I eating too much? Like, I think I'm eating out too much. I'm like, okay, like, I don't care how much you eat out. If you're getting value and fulfillment and you're a foodie and you just love food, who am I to say that you spend too much on your food? Now, for me, who doesn't like food, if I look at my budget and see I spent $1,000 on food, I'm wondering what the heck went wrong, right? Like, I'm calling my wife, what are you buying at the grocery? Like, why, right? But that's because I don't value food the same way that somebody else values food. Yeah. But there's people who they'll spend tens of thousands of dollars on their car, souping it up. They'll buy a $6,000 car, spend $30,000 souping it up, and sell it for 10. And you're like, what the heck? But they just love that. They love the creation process. So it's like, who am I to judge you for how you spend your money? But if you're unaware and you're subconsciously money's bleeding out of you, then that's what I care about. So let's be conscious and actually make a choice about how we spend our money rather than just like habitually out of sedation spend our money.
So funny you should say that. I'm actually trying to train my boyfriend right now. Suffering from this. And I'm like, okay, like, can you look at your bank statement and see where your money has gone?
Well, if you want to chat, we can chat after this. But
do you do military budgets? Because oh, okay, sweet.
No, I work with all types of clients. So, anyways, so here's my favorite question. This is this last question, but it's my favorite. We're going to pretend that you're dead, which is exciting. No, really. But I think it's more indicative of what we actually want. So the question is, what legacy are you building? But what's important is, we're going to pretend that you're dead, and it's now 200 years from now. Okay, so this is like 6 to 12, depending on how you gauge generations away from now. You are able to come back and view your posterity talking about you around the dinner table, or about the impact that you had on life. What would you hope that they're saying at that point? What do you want your legacy to be 200 years from now?
She made a positive impact on so many lives. And I can't tell you how I'm going to do that. I don't know if social media is the way to do it, but I don't want to be rich, and I don't want to own a bunch of things with my name on them. And I just, if the best compliment would be, she was the kindest, most genuine person ever and really cared about everybody.
That's awesome. That's cool. I love it. Yeah, no, that's awesome. In my opinion, that's been my experience with you. So I could vouch for that. You're living your legacy today. Some people, you ask that question and it's completely not in alignment with how they live their life currently.
Interesting.
Which is crazy, because you build a legacy by living a legacy. You don't get to the end of your life and tell people what your legacy is. If you didn't live it, it didn't happen. So I commend you on living your legacy. It's awesome. I love it. Thank you so much for your time. Is there any last words you wanna give, words of wisdom to the Fuel Your Legacy audience?
Oh yes. So social media is turned a corner, and it's no longer about being polished and perfect. It's about being real and raw.
I agree with that. As unfortunate as it is, because sometimes you don't want to share all of your stuff.
Well, follow me on Instagram and you'll know all my secrets.
Yeah.
I'm real. Super real.
I'll have to go follow you there. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time. And again, if you guys love this podcast, you love listening to Mandy, go show her some love on any of the social platforms, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever. Also, if you love this podcast, go rate and review it on iTunes or Google, Spotify, wherever you listen to it. Give it however many stars you think it's worth in your life. You decide. 5 is a great number if that's one you decide. And then say something about it, because some people, they are looking for something to read or listen to, and they'll read 2 or 3 reviews and then they're like, yes or no, right? So if this podcast changes your life, let people know about it, right? So all the upset people, they always get out there and they blog and they gripe about stuff on social media or wherever, but we need more happiness. We need more sharing of what you love. So go ahead and rank and review this podcast, and we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy. Thanks for joining us. If what you heard today resonates with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me, and if you do give me a shout out, I'll give you a shout out on the next episode. Thanks to all of those who've left a review. It helps spread the message of what it takes to build a legacy that lasts. And we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy.